Progressive Field in Cleveland, Ohio. Pix 11 Sports presents New York Mets baseball today. The Mets play the Cleveland Indians. New York Mets baseball is brought to you by Hyundai. The latest lineup of cars and SUVs you'll find at your local Hyundai dealer aren't just new, they're better. By M&T Bank. What's important to you is important at M&T Bank. Learn more at mtb.com/meet us. By Land Rover Above and Beyond. By Raymore and Flanagan Furniture, furnishing your style. By Dunkin' Donuts, America runs on Dunkin'. And by ChevyOffers.com. Well, the Mets arrived in Cleveland yesterday to start their road trip, and they began with their offense rocking and rolling. It almost reached legendary proportions. It's another sunny day in Cleveland, and the Mets are hoping that the good times with the bats continue. And a pleasant good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Cleveland. I'm Gary Cohen. Keith Hernandez joins me in just a moment as the Mets play the middle game of their series against the Indians. The Mets are dealing with an off-field issue right now, a real-life problem for pitcher Jacob deGrom. He and his wife Stacy gave birth to a son on Monday. Jackson Anthony deGrom is undergoing some complications right now, and so Jacob's been placed on the family medical list. He'll be out the next 3 to 7 days. His lat muscle is okay. He would have been able to pitch on Tuesday in Philadelphia, but right now the Mets' concern and their hopes are with Jacob and his family. Meanwhile, on the mound today, Matt Harvey will take the start. Matt's making his third start of the year. The first two, he's taken losses. The last one, he was doing okay against the Phillies until he gave up a sixth-inning home run to Odubel Herrera.
Well, the trouble with Matt so far this year has been his inconsistency with his secondary pitches, Gary. He's got his velocity there. He's throwing hard, but he seems to make that mistake with particularly the slider, and that's the one he gets burned on. You know, when Matt is a guy that strikes out a lot of guys, he's only got 5 strikeouts this season. That's very un-Harvey-like. Mets need him to get going and be the pitcher that he can be.
And the Mets are hoping that they can provide as much offensive support as they did last night for Bartolo Colon. Last night, the Mets broke out in a big way.
Well, Conforto, his first time in the lineup as a number 3 hitter. What did he do his first at bat? Solo home run, dead central. Diaza 0 for 7 coming into the game. He hits well in this ballpark. His 7th home run career in this stadium. And this is the big guy right here, Cespedes. And going the opposite field, very, very clutch right there, the 2-run shot. And the right-hand switch hitter, they're on the right side. Mr. Walker hits his first home run as a Met from the right side. So a big offensive explosion, 14 hits. They got to keep it rolling.
On the shores of Lake Erie, the Mets will try and get their 3rd straight victory. Mets and Indians, all the action coming your way on Pix 11. New York Mets baseball is brought to you by Land Rover, above and beyond. Get to Citi Field for Family Sunday, May 1st. The Mets take on the Giants at 1:10. The first 15,000 fans in attendance will receive a pair of Curtis Granderson baseball socks, courtesy of East Coast Power and Gas. Plus, all kids can run the bases after the game in the Mr. Met Dash, presented by Northwell Health. For tickets, visit Mets.com/Family Sundays. Themes of the game brought to you by your local Hyundai dealer.
Well, we're going to have a rock and roll theme. Walk this way. Tomlin, the starting pitcher, does not walk people, as you can see right there. One of my favorite bands, Eric Clapton, Jack Bruce, Ginger Baker. You got it. Sunshine of Your Love. Great night for Cespedes. And oh, what a night. Matt Harvey, 25-20. He needs to get up and pitching like he can.
Matt looks for his first victory of the season as the Mets take on the Indians. First pitch is coming right up. Seven-year-old Gaylord Perry throwing out the first pitch today.
That was a wet one, I'm sure.
He won a Cy Young here in Cleveland in 1972, then won another one in San Diego in 1978.
He sure did. I faced him in 1978. He threw very hard that year, and then he went to the puffball, if you remember, Gary, where he had the rosin on his hand and he would throw it, and it was like LeBron James with his rosin he throws in the air.
Is that a different movement than the Vaseline ball that he used to throw?
He's quite a pitcher.
Well, he won 314 games. He's a Hall of Famer, and it's great to have Gaylord Perry in the ballpark today. Let's check out the Mets starting lineup, brought to you by Nissan. Shop ChooseNissan.com. Exact same lineup as last night, and why not? The Mets rang up 6 runs and 14 hits last night. Could have had a whole lot more. They had 2 runners thrown out of the plate and went 0 for 10 with runners in scoring position. But big day for Alejandro De Aza in that 9 spot. A big day for Yoenis Cespedes. Michael Conforto gets a second straight day in the 3-hole, as Cespedes will DH for the second straight day.
And the starting pitcher for the Indians, their number 5 starter. He got rained out of his first start, so this is his 2016 debut. You see, last year, after coming off of shoulder surgery, he missed all the way the season from April through July, but finished with a 7-2 record and a very impressive earned run average.
Tomlin's never been a hard thrower. He's a control guy, throws strikes, works fast, and last year the results when he got back from injury, as Keith said, were terrific.
And we'll take a look at the defense of the Indians, brought to you by your Tri-Honda dealer. Ramirez, who came in late in the game last night, gets the start against Matt Harvey. Your old Met there, Juan Uribe, had a big night last night, 3 hits. And Yan Gomes, the first, Brazilian catcher, Gary?
First Brazilian in the
Major Leagues.
For Josh Tomlin, this is his first outing since March the 29th, his last spring training effort. He did throw a simulated game Tuesday when the Indians were down in St. Petersburg, but it's going to be a long time between facing hitters in a game situation for Tomlin, so we'll see how his command is today.
In 10 starts last year to end the season, he only had 8 walks in 65 2/3 innings. That's outstanding.
Curtis Granderson will lead things off. Curtis 1 for 5 last night. Off to a 4 for 36 start, and the Indians will begin the day in a full shift against Curtis. Tomlin's first pitch is below the knees, and we are underway.
Big shift for Curtis, who has been off to a tough start. Very difficult start for Curtis.
And you see the shadows of the light stanchions beginning to encroach from the third base line with the late afternoon start and a bright sunny day. Shadows are going to be a big issue today. 54 degrees at game time. It's a delightful day, particularly if you're sitting in the sun. A little breeze blowing in from right center field, and Curtis hits one into the wind to deep right. Back goes Davis near the wall, and it's out of here. A home run for Curtis Granderson. Just got it over the glove of Rajai Davis. Granderson's first home run of the year, and the Mets on the third pitch of the game take a 1-0 lead.
And yet another home run, 5th of this series, 4 last night. Fastball, Curtis waiting up at the plate nicely. Curtis had a very good at bat his last at bat last night. Hit a line drive base hit into the right center field gap. So maybe this is signs of Curtis coming out of his slumber.
His first run batted into the season. Last year, Granderson set a Mets club record for leadoff home runs. And he hits his first home run and his first leadoff home run of 2016. Last year, Granderson hit 7 home runs leading off first innings. 7 of the 26 that he hit last year.
Well, you can remember, Garrett, all of a sudden these 5 home runs. The Mets only had 2 going into this series. Remember, in spring training, they barely hit home runs also. So all of a sudden, it's been a power explosion.
1-2 to David Wright, and he takes on the inside corner. Strike 3 call. David didn't think so, but then Iasonia rings him up for the first out of the day.
A front door breaking ball, looked like. Yep, little front door slide ball.
So 1 out and nobody on. Now Michael Conforto. Curtis Granderson providing the first run of the game, brought to you by Dunkin' Donuts. America runs on Dunkin'.
Well, back in the 3-hole, Mr. Conforto. I like him in that position in the order.
He homered his first time up yesterday after being elevated to that 3 spot.
Dead central.
He had a hit later on in the game, a little number up the third baseline that went for an infield hit, and they are covering the third base position against Conforto, but not the shortstop hole.
They're still playing him with that extreme shift, the triangle shift, the rover in right field. I don't understand why they're playing him pull so much.
And he hits this one, a little dunker into shallow right center, falling fast. Davis with a sliding effort, and he hangs onto the ball. It flipped out of his glove, but he grabbed it with the bare hand. Rajai Davis with a terrific play to rob Conforto for the second out.
A little bit of a juggling act here. Oh, he's already made the catch.
Well, I'll tell you what, if he did that on purpose and that ball does not land in his bare hand, that's not a catch.
He did not have it long enough, Garrett?
It's a matter of
completing the play?
Yeah, you have to be able to pull the ball out of your glove. If you flip it from your glove like that and you do not catch it with your bare hand, that is not a catch. But if he did it on purpose, he at least executed it properly. So 2 out and nobody on. And now Yoenis Cespedes DHing for the second straight day. Cespedes has a huge bruise on his leg after taking that flying leap into the stands on Wednesday afternoon. So probably all well and good that he doesn't have to play the field in this series.
And a 3 for 5 yesterday, a double, a home run, and a single. 2-run shot at second.
And both his home run and his double he drove to right center.
Exactly, and that's what I like to see, and I know that's what Kevin Long, the hitting coach, loves to see.
Now let me ask you this. Is it possible that because he's got that bruise on his leg and maybe you know, is a little less able to turn on a ball? Could it be that the leg actually propelled him to drive the ball to right center?
Garrett, I don't have the answer to that. I know one thing: when you're hurting a little bit, well, not a good swing there, got tied up inside. You do focus more on contact. If you're hurting when you swing, you can see right there, he just got completely tied up. You're going to focus on, okay, I'm hurt, a little bit hurt. I only want to have one swing and make it count.
Well, he goes after the high fastball, and Tomlin has his second strikeout. But the Mets strike first on the Granderson leadoff home run and hand Matt Harvey a 1-0 lead. Afternoon.
Well, there's the pitch right there. As you can see, right down the pipe, belt high, full extension. There you go. And Curtis has been out in front, behind. He's just been in between, which is what you call a 111 start of his season. So he's on his way, hopefully.
Here's the Nissan starting lineup for the Indians. The only change, Jose Ramirez in the lineup, Marlon Byrd out. Otherwise, the same unit that Terry Francona ran out there last night. The Indians had a good offensive night, 5 runs, 14 hits, and left the tying and winning runs on base in the night.
And there's Matt Harvey. It'll be his first career start against the Cleveland Indians in his young career, and you see the numbers, not Harvey-esque at all.
Rajay Davis leads off and takes a strike. Davis 1 for 5 last night. Well, at least the Mets have given Matt Harvey some support. They didn't score while he was in the game in his first start on opening night, and also in his second start against the Phillies. Didn't score until he was done. Certainly he has been the victim of non-support at frequent junctures in his career. In 67 career starts, Matt has 22 no decisions, and in his 22 no decisions, his ERA is 2.04, which is the lowest in history.
Well, you know, if you take his career starts totals, he's got an ERA of 2.59. That is outstanding. 25 and 20 coming into this game.
So every run is appreciated. 1-2 coming to Davis, and he struck him out with a fastball. 93, down and in for the first out.
Not a strike. Got a little sink on it. See the ball kind of run down and in.
Well, Matt has not been racking up the strikeouts so far this year. Had 2 strikeouts in his first start against the Royals, just 3 against the Phillies. First time in his career he's had 3 or fewer in back-to-back starts. Here's Jason Kipnis, who had a terrific night last night. 3 hits, including a couple of doubles. Also threw out a couple of runners at the plate on relay throws. And he takes a fastball strike. I would think with the shadows that the power game could be important for Harvey today.
Well, it's definitely going to be in the favor of the pitchers. There's no question.
But does a power guy like Harvey have more of an advantage than a finesse guy like Tomlin would with the shadows?
The harder you throw and the sharper your breaking ball, it's going to be more of an advantage for the power guy. Yes.
0-2 to Kipnis. Struck him out with a high fastball. So Harvey going with heat has back-to-back strikeouts to start his day.
Nice start. Upstairs, out of the strike zone.
I'll tell you what, that low behind the plate camera really gives you an idea how quickly that ball gets on top of you.
Yes, Garrett, but you know what? I can speak from experience. When you're red hot, it's like slow motion. It's like slow motion.
Like
I'm sure not with Matt.
Slow motion. Francisco Lindor takes a strike. Lindor 0 for 5 last night, was robbed of a hit his last time up by a Alejandro De Aza's sliding catch in left field. Lindor, the runner-up for American League Rookie of the Year honors last year.
And a look at your Mets Tri-Honda defense. Brought to you by your Tri-Honda dealers. Same lineup as last night that had all that 14 hits. d'Arnaud behind the plate again. d'Arnaud's the one guy that's late to get untracked.
Lindor goes down swinging, and Matt Harvey on 10 pitches strikes out the side in the opening inning. That's matched his season high for strikeouts.
Bravo. Encore.
What a start. Out here in Cleveland this weekend.
They were around the hotel too.
When Granderson hit the home run, you could tell there are it's a large percentage of this crowd rooting for the Mets.
Very friendly lot in the hotel lobby.
I'm glad they were nice to. Lucas Duda leads off in the second inning. Well, Curtis Granderson got off the schneid with his first home run in the first inning. Lucas Duda looking to join him. Coming into the day, Granderson and Duda were among 7 major leaguers who had hit at least 25 last year and had yet to hit their first home run this year. Lucas 1 for 5 last night, and he lifts one foul, 1-2.
Well, you got to get it while it's good right now if you're a hitter. You want first time through the order. As Gary mentioned last inning, those shadows are going to become a major factor in this game.
Right now it's just the shadows of the light stanchions moving in and out. That's hit through the shift, and a great stop by Lindor, and he throws him out. Well, they had the infielders bunched. It looked like Lucas had hit it hard enough to get it by, But Lindor with a terrific play for the first out.
Well, that ball had tremendous exit velocity, Gare. This was a bullet, but just a very nice play.
Well, they raved about Lindor's glove before he ever got to the big leagues. He may be a future Gold Glover at shortstop. So one hard out and nobody on. Now Neil Walker, who had 2 hits last night, including his second home run of the year. And for Walker, he hit the home run against the left-hander Ross Detweiler. Hit it as a right-hand batter. Of his 95 career home runs, it was only his 7th as a right-hand batter. That's hit hard. And a nice stop by Napoli. And Tomlin gets over to cover. So 2 bullets on the right side of the infield. And Tomlin very fortunate to have 2 outs.
Boy, he's living right. 2 rockets. This is just an outstanding play by Napoli. I like this Indian uniform a little bit. It's not so bad.
This is nice. This is their alternate uniform, and I think it's their best one.
I do too.
No names on the backs of these, and they've got the C caps as opposed to the Chief Wahoo caps they wore last night. Two out and nobody on now is Drupal Cabrera, the former Indian who had a very good night last night back at his old haunts. His fellow former Indian Bartolo Colon had an historic night, registering his 219th win, tying him with Pedro Martinez for second all-time among Dominican pitchers. Cabrera was on base 3 times last night, a double, a walk, and a hit by pitch. He got hit on the right elbow, and the elbow is a little sore today. And you see he's got the pad on it, but not sore enough to take him out of the lineup. And he takes one the other way for a base hit. Well, that's 3 bullets that Tomlin's given up in this inning. Wow. And Cabrera goes to the opposite field. He's now got 5 hits in his last 11 at bats.
Those guys on the infield are going to put some body armor on here. There's some bullets being hit around here.
If you add up all the exit velocity, you might end up with a super collider.
The speed of light.
Here's Travis d'Arnaud trying to fight his way out of an early season slump. Just 2 for 23 to start the year. 0 for 4 last night.
Really thought he was over swinging last night.
Year-old Josh Tomlin, 36 career wins, 30 losses.
He had 12 wins, Gare, for this Indian team back in 2011.
Right, that's before the injuries began.
He's had a lot of arm surgery, elbow, shoulder.
Tommy John in 2012, the shoulder injury last year that required surgery and cost him the first 4 months. Texas Tech product. 19th round pick back in 06. Who else pitched in Texas? Oh, A.J. Ramos was Texas Tech, but he was a few years after Tomlin. Cabrera at first and 2 out. De Aza would be next. So you've got that strip of shadow between the mound and the pitcher. Does that bother you as a hitter?
No, it would not bother. It's too narrow a strip. I mean, it's going to go and tuck into there real quick. It's going to be a split second in the shadows, Gare. You got plenty of time to distinguish what the pitch is and where it's going to anticipate its break or where it's going to move.
That's lined to center field, falling fast for a base hit. Naquin manages to cut it off on the high bounce. d'Arnaud's going to try for 2. The relay throw is not in time. d'Arnaud aggressively in with a double, his first extra base hit of the season.
4th straight bullet.
And this ball almost got past Naquin in center field.
It took a high hop. He misjudged it in the beginning, Gary. He came in and realized he had to scoot out back, retreat a little bit. Caught Cleveland Indians there is napping on that good hustle double there.
So 4 straight well-struck balls, the first 2 resulting in outs, but then Cabrera with a single, d'Arnaud with a double, and now Alejandro De Aza, who had a big night last night. De Aza had a single, double, and home run. This has been De Aza's favorite park to hit in since he's come to the major leagues. Met fans getting a "Let's Go Mets" chant going.
Well, there's that line drive, almost got over his head of Naquin. And good hustle by d'Arnaud. I'll say one thing, this Met team hustles. They come to play.
Cabrera at third, d'Arnaud at second. And De Aza lays off the cutter, and it just missed. Ball and a strike. De Aza in this ballpark, Progressive Field, has averaged a home run every 15 at bats. In every other ballpark, he's averaged a home run every 56 at bats. So it gives you an idea how well he sees the ball in this park. And he told Terry Collins that last week. He said, I love hitting in Cleveland. And Terry said, okay, we'll make sure we get you in the lineup. And it paid off last night.
Well, I bet you in today's statistic computerized world that Terry went on the computer and just to make sure the information was correct, and it's there.
De Aza's got some pop. He's hit as many as 17 home runs in a season, and the one he hit last night was over that 19-foot fence in deep left center. It was well struck. 1-2 coming, and the curveball in the dirt, chased down by Gomes, and he makes the play on De Aza to end the inning. Third strikeout for Tomlin, and the Mets somehow don't score in an inning in which they hit the tar out of the ball. Still 1-0. Cleveland Indians played their game right on the shores of Lake Erie till 1993 at Old Municipal Stadium. Held 80,000 fans, and every once in a while they'd fill it for a Browns game. Not often for a baseball game.
Well, they had a lot of good Brown teams to watch back in the 50s and 60s.
One of the old classics with the posts that you had to peer from behind if you sat in some of those seats upstairs. Mike Napoli takes outside as we start the home second. Municipal Stadium opened for baseball in 1932. 81,000 seats. And it was there that Ken Keltner made those 2 great plays on Joe DiMaggio to end his 56-game hitting streak.
That's right.
In 1941.
Everybody forgets that after that streak was broken, DiMaggio went on for like a 17 more. It was just an incredible run.
Or 16. He would have had, if he had gotten a hit, it would have been a 73-game hitting streak.
Which is almost half a season. Can you imagine that?
It's hard to imagine 56, considering nobody's come closer than 44 since then. Napoli pops on a mile-high foul, and that'll go out of play.
And that would have been Pete Rose, of course, who broke Tommy Holmes' National League record.
Right, 37.
And Tommy was always a regular at Shea Stadium.
Carlos Santana on deck, then Yan Gomes for the Indians in the second. Napoli 2 hits last night. Matt Harvey struck out the side in the first. And he runs full to Napoli to start the second. Ball stuck in the screen. Three-two coming. And the curveball bounce foul. Will. Again, the 3-2, and that's fouled down the right field side.
All the minor league ballparks used to have the overhead netting because they didn't want to lose the baseballs. There you go.
Of course, they had that at Shea Stadium behind the plate. First fair ball hit by an Indian. Cabrera handles it and throws out Napoli, one away.
Cabrera very solid at shortstop.
You know, last year in Tampa Bay, they said that Cabrera tailed off defensively the second half of the year, and I know he had some leg issues, and he might not have the greatest range, but if there's a ball hit in his area, he makes every play. From what the Mets have seen so far. Here's Carlos Santana DHing again today.
Homered last night late in the ball game.
It was against Addison Reed in the ninth, and that forced Terry Collins to bring Jeurys Familia in. Terry saying before the game today that both Familia and Reed will have today off. And Santana thinking about bunting against the shift. If the Mets need a closer today, Terry intends to use Jim Henderson in that role. Off-speed pitch hit to center field, and Diaz is right there. 2 out. So Harvey changing speeds effectively against Santana, and he's retired the first 5. And now Yan Gomes, the catcher. Gomes was 1 for 5 last night.
Mets were 0 for 10 with runners in scoring position, Gare. It's been a long time since they won a ball game when they went 0 for 10 with runners in scoring position. Change up. Change up. Watch it dip into the shadows. Can you tell? There it goes. See, just for that split second. That's outstanding work, guys.
Slowly hit. Big hop for Cabrera. Low throw handled by Duda. And just like that, Harvey's got his second straight 1-2-3 inning. From out of the shadow and back into the sun. Hitting's hard enough.
Peekaboo.
brought to you by Affinity Health Plan, serving the needs of New Yorkers for over 30 years. A check-in on Zach Wheeler, whom the Mets hope to have back in July, coming back from Tommy John surgery. Underwent a minor procedure this week. Just one of those dissolvable stitches that didn't quite dissolve properly, and they had to remove that, but that should not set him back at all. Closer on the horizon is Josh Edgin, also coming back from Tommy John surgery. He threw a rehab stint last night. It's Curtis Granderson, who led off the game with a home run, starting the third inning against Josh Tomlin. And Edgin should be back with the Mets by early May, and that will certainly bolster the Mets bullpen. Edgin missed all of last year, but the latter stages of 2014, Edgin had really settled into a very nice groove as an important piece in the Mets bullpen and give them another quality left arm out there. David Wright on deck, then Michael Conforto. Good cutter by Tomlin. It's 2-2. Granderson's leadoff home run in the first inning was the 36th time in his career that Curtis has led off a first inning with a home run. And the 12th time he's done it as a Met, 7 last year, which was a club record. 3-2 from Tomlin. Into the shift. Kipnis on the outfield grass, one away.
Well, good contact again there. Those are always signs of moving up.
So 1 out and nobody on. Now David Wright, who was called out on strikes his first time up.
See if you can see in real time, folks, the ball going into the shadows and coming out.
Well, now you've got the pitcher in shadow, throwing through the sunlight into shadow, and then at the very last moment into sunlight. That's tough.
But the ball is not going to be very long. You can see the shadow across the pitcher's mound, so it's going to come out quickly. And you got all that sunshine in between. You can see it, and that little bit of darkness before home plate, it's not going to have any real negative effect. You're going to be able to see the ball long enough and have an idea know what the pitch is, and assume where it's going to break, depending on the pitch. It's when the shadow comes across half and half, Gary.
Right.
That's when it's murder.
Well, what's interesting here in Cleveland is the sun sets behind the third base stands, so the shadows encroach from the left. A lot of ballparks, the sun sets directly behind the plate, and so the shadow will come out as a straight line toward the plate. Here it'll encroach from third base and move out toward right field. Tomlin behind 3-1, and David pops one up, and that'll make it back into the stands. This ballpark was the first of the modern ballparks to use those toothbrush-style light stanchions, and they cast that interesting shadow that you're seeing right now across the field. They've used those now in Pittsburgh as well, and they look great, but the shadows certainly create a different environment. Did he go? He went around. Strike 3. David gets fooled on a cutter up and out of the strike zone. He strikes out for the second time today.
Well, no argument from David. 2 called third strikes. Slider, you can see the spin on the ball, dipping into the shadow, and could have been up. I don't think he swung.
Bob Davidson thought so. Your old pal.
Let's take another look here. Borderline.
So 2 out and nobody on. Now Michael Conforto. Conforto hit a fly ball to shallow right center, and Rajai Davis made a sliding catch to rob him of a hit.
Nice play.
I don't know how difficult it is to hit right now, but I can tell you just watching the ball out of the pitcher's hand coming to home plate from our vantage point, you can lose it in the shadows.
I think it's okay right now for the hitters. It's almost all sunlight in front. Nice.
That's drilled down the right field line. A fair ball bouncing into the corner. It stays in play, and Conforto pulls in at second base with a 2-out double.
Well, let me tell you something, folks. We're going to watch this double in replay soon. This is a nice piece of hitting here. This is a good slider coming down and in. Looking to turn. Got a little bit too much of the plate and down and ripped down the right field line. And get used to seeing that. This kid's got such a bright future.
Well, we said it yesterday. Terry moved Conforto into the number 3 spot in the batting order. And it could be that he doesn't move out of that spot for a long, long time. Here's Cespedes, who struck out his first time up. Nobody covering as Tomlin made that turn. Your Geico who's hot. Yoenis Cespedes, last 5 games, 8 for 19 with a couple of home runs. That's hot.
Disco Inferno.
Goes back to last Sunday, the last game of the Phillies series. And to see the Phillies again starting on Monday night at Citizens Bank Park, and Mets should see the young Vince Velasquez another time after his dominating performance against San Diego the other night. If he keeps going the way he's going, it's going to certainly become a folk hero in Philadelphia in short order. 15 scoreless innings to start his Phillies career with 25 strikeouts. Cespedes didn't do well seeing that cutter, and it's 0-2.
It was a fastball inside. I think a four-seamer beat him in. Phillies pitching staff leads the National League with 108 strikeouts.
To Cespedes. Adam Wainwright got beat up again this afternoon.
He's struggling, isn't he? I think he's short on his fastball, Garrett.
Reds lead the Cardinals 8-6 in the 8th in St. Louis. Wainwright went 5 1/3, gave up 7 runs, 10 hits. Better swing by Cespedes, and he fouls it back. Meanwhile, Jake Arrieta just keeps on going. Got 8 scoreless innings under his belt today. Cubs lead the Rockies 6-0.
He's a complete pitcher. He's got all the pitches. Great breaking ball. And what little I saw him pitch last year, he pitches inside. His game hasn't changed.
One and 2 to Cespedes, and he pops one foul. Tomlin making his first start of the season. He's given up some very hard hit balls early in this game, but to date just the 1 run on the leadoff home run by Granderson.
He's been giving up some rocket launchers.
Conforto at second and 2 down. And Cespedes chases the curveball in the dirt. Gomes makes the toss. Side retired. 5 strikeouts in the first 3 innings for Josh Tomlin, who's not a big strikeout pitcher. Still 1-0 Mets. Brought to you by Modell's. Shop Modell's Sporting Goods, your fan gear headquarters. Come on, Mets fans, you got to go to Moe's. 6 up and 6 down for Matt Harvey to start the afternoon. Mets with a 1-0 lead. Jose Ramirez will lead off for Cleveland in the home third. Ramirez came off the bench last night and went 1 for 3. He's a career infielder who has now been used in the outfield as well. In fact, more in the outfield this year. Played a lot of second base and third base in the past.
He had a 1 for 3 coming in late yesterday, but he left 4 men on base in his 2 at-bats. His 3 at-bats, excuse me. Got the only base hit when there was no one on. Made the final out of the game.
Flied out to left with the tying and winning runs on base against Familia, who stumbled but didn't fall. Ramirez lines one to right. It'll stay up for Granderson for the first out.
That was your great call in Milwaukee. Stumbling.
You're talking about the Fernando Martinez play.
Yes, in center field when he
slipping, falling,
falling. That was a. You know why that was such a good call? Because it was a routine fly ball, and who would have expected someone to have trouble in the way you would, with such a plum?
Is Fernando still in the game?
I don't know.
He done. I remember when the Mets signed him when he was 16 years old, and Juan Uribe pops one up, and it'll stay in play for Duda.
You're all right.
And he has it for the second out. I think it was the most money the Mets had ever spent on an international signing when they signed Fernando Martinez, and it just never quite clicked for him.
I thought he had a very nice swing and had a chance to be a really exceptional hitter, and he always got hurt, Gare.
Yeah,
he was always hurt.
His last big league action came in 2013 for Houston, so it looks like he may be done at age 27. Here's Tyler Naquin, the number 9 hitter. Naquin, the rookie center fielder, 4 for 11 to start his big league career. The Indians have run into a spate of left-handed pitching early in the season. This is their 9th game. It's only the 4th right-hander they faced, which is very unusual these days. So Naquin has been platooning. That's why he only has 11 at-bats. De Aza in center field has got it. 3 perfect innings for Matt Harvey as he threw just 7 pitches to get through that bottom of the 3rd. Still 1-0 New York. And prosperity since 1796. Well, speaking of prosperity, Matt Harvey's had that so far today.
Watch his eyes and his head focused on the target. Never loses sight of the target. Now, there's a lot of pitchers that over the years that have done all kinds of gyrations. Louis Tion, of course, a former Cleveland Indian here, turned his back. Fernando Valenzuela looked up to the sky. Brad Penny looked at third base. Ken Holtzman's one that comes to mind for me. He used to jerk his head back at the last minute, and he was a control pitcher.
And even today, Johnny Cueto
Yes.
will turn his back on the hitter.
Ken Holtzman was quite a pitcher. Boy, did he have a curveball.
But there's got to be an advantage to having laser focus the way Matt does, to be able to eyeball your target and go in a straight line right toward where you're trying to get the ball.
I think, what do they tell hitters? Keep your eye on the ball. It just seems to me that would be what you'd want to do.
Duda gets under one to center field. Naquin looking through the sunshine. Side saddles to make the catch. One away. The lefty reliever that the Red Sox had a few years ago, Okajima?
Yes.
Who would look at the ground as he was throwing the pitch to the plate. I would have thought that was incredibly disconcerting for the hitters.
Nolan Ryan, from his windup, Gary, would, when he moved down, it was like a big freight train with this big motion. He could follow his hand, his eyes would follow his hands down, and then as he came up, he'd pick up his target. That's a little disconcerting. Someone throwing that hard.
Well, let me ask you this: is it more disconcerting when he's looking down, or is it more disconcerting when he's looking at you?
I just think my focus was on picking up the ball as fast as I could. I was glad I was a left-hand hitter, not a right-hand hitter against Nolan.
Walker grounds one foul. Well, Ryan had a reputation, though, as a headhunter, in addition to being able to throw so hard. So did he have to be extra loose when you faced him?
He never threw at me. He never did. And in all my career that I played against Nolan, when he was with the Astros, he would dust you once in a while. What he didn't like was if you put a drag bunt down. He didn't like that. You asked for trouble if you did that. So I wasn't going to bunt.
Probably especially true later in his career when he's in his 40s. He didn't really want to be bothered getting off the mound to field.
He was always in great shape, Gary. He kept himself in tremendous condition.
Well, you'd have to pitch till 46 and throw as hard as he did. Walker lifts one to left, and Ramirez toward the line. Has it for the second out. 2 out and nobody out. Let's check in with Steve Gelb. Steve.
Guys, Progressive Field looking very different than it did the last time the Mets were here back in 2013. Underwent 2 off seasons full of renovations, make it look almost brand new inside this ballpark. This past off season, the big renovation was done out in right field, and the Indians really did a lot of research into how they were going to maximize that space. They actually took out about 7,000 seats, not for luxury suites though, but as a sign of the times, for standing room only seats. The research that they did showed that millennials now don't really enjoy sitting down in regular seats and just watching a ball game front to end. Instead, they like congregating, watching here and there, going to the bar a little bit. So $13 standing room only seats get you into that area in the ballpark here.
See what happens when you play those video games.
I just want to know, isn't standing room only seats an oxymoron?
Yes. SRO. That's only for Broadway.
Well, there was a time here in Cleveland when they wouldn't think about ripping out seats because they used to sell out every game year after year after year in the 90s.
You got a nice crowd here today.
In many respects, 4 o'clock is a perfect time for a game. It's good for everybody except the hitters.
Yes.
When it's sunny on a day like this, not easy.
And you can look at the shadows now. It's getting very close where it's going to be advantage pitcher. Very close.
Right. 2-2 to Walker, and he bounces one down at first. Napoli's got it, and Josh Tomlin has his first 1-2-3 inning of the afternoon. Matt Harvey and the Mets in Cleveland and leading 1-0. shores of Lake Erie, right behind that tree. Progressive Field, opened in 1994, then known as Jacobs Field. And the Clouds move awfully quickly. Well, Matt Harvey is stepping out of the shadows today. 9 up and 9 down to start his day. Has a 1-0 lead as we start the bottom of the fourth. Second time around the batting order. Rajai Davis will lead off. Harvey struck out the side in the first inning and then did not strike out a batter in either of the next 2 innings. So only 29 pitches over the first 3, or 30.
There's that hanging slider he's got to be careful of.
That was not today's high-speed pitch, which comes from ChevyOffers.com. Matt's topped out at 95 today. Josh Tomlin at 89. Not the top velocity that Matt's capable of, but good enough. And he strikes out, or gets the second strike on Rajai Davis with the curveball.
First curveball he's thrown. Good one. I like that pitch. There you go.
All decked out in his Harvey gear.
Dad, get your son in the seat and have him watch the major leaguers. Unless, of course, he has to go to the facilities.
What if he wanted a hot dog? Maybe some fries.
They have vendors.
Jason Kipnis on deck, and then Francisco Lindor in the home fourth. And Davis breaks his bat and flares one right to Walker for the first out.
Take a look at Matt. Not much. Look at that. No arm movement at all. Hard. Look at him drive off that back foot. And there's that hip lift that Ronnie mentioned. The right hip that lifts up. He's a big, strong guy. Big, powerful motion.
10 up and 10 down for Matt to start the day. Here's Jason Kipnis, with the shadows becoming more and more of a factor. Kipnis struck out his first time up. And he grounds a weak one to Walker. And quickly there are 2 out.
Well, Matt, it looks to me as made a transition here, and maybe the ego has been put aside of the strikeouts. And to me, with the rise of Syndergaard and all of his strikeouts, you know, Matt's not trying to match him, and I like it. He's become more of a contact pitcher.
Lindor hits one toward the middle. Cabrera runs it down. The spinner Robin again. Him side retired. As Dribble Cabrera throwing out his shortstop counterpart and keeps Matt Harvey perfect through 4. Right on target by Cabrera. Still 1-0 Mets.
Mets Baseball Live with the MLB.com at Bat app. Stay up to the moment at any moment with game day, live game video highlights, StatCast, news, and more. Download MLB.com at Bat, the #1 app for live baseball on your phone and tablet. That's upcoming schedule brought to you by the new JetBlue card. One more to go here in Cleveland tomorrow. That'll be on SNY at 1 o'clock. Then the Mets go to Philly for 3 night games Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and in Atlanta next weekend, Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday afternoon.
The shadows now, Gary, have become problematic for the hitter.
Travis d'Arnaud lines one to left. On comes Ramirez to get it. And on the first pitch, d'Arnaud is retired, one down in the 5th. Well, I would say the shadows have been problematic for the Indians hitters from the first pitch that Matt Harvey threw today.
Well, Matt's, what, 12 in a row?
12 in a row, and nothing hit particularly hard. The one line drive to right field that Granderson caught, really the only semi-hard hit ball. Now Alejandro De Aza, who struck out his first time up.
I like these 4 o'clock starts.
Let's check in with Steve.
Guys, earlier in the broadcast, you referenced just how much Alejandro De Aza loves playing here in Cleveland. I asked him what that was about, if he saw the ball any better, anything like that. He said, no, he thinks it's just a confidence thing, how he started his career as he grounds out to first here in Cleveland was pretty darn good. He remembers exactly, though, why he got off to that great start here in Cleveland. He was on the White Sox and he was playing against the Indians. The manager at the time of the Indians was Manny Acta. The two knew each other from the Dominican Republic. And every time that De Aza came up to lead off an inning, he would shout out to his team, one away, one away. And De Aza said it fired him up, got him going, and ever since then he's been rolling here.
It's funny how certain parks you hit well in, or I'm sure with Ronnie was here, certain parks you pitched well in. I always hit well at Wrigley. I hit well at Dodger Stadium. I hit well at San Diego. Parks I loved to play in, Garrett. I loved going to the ballpark, to those 3 specific stadiums. And I think it's all part of going in with a positive attitude, you know, to your workplace. I think it carries over into your performance.
Granderson pulls one foul. I like the part of the story where De Aza got ticked off at his buddy Manny Acta. You know, sometimes it takes somebody to get you on your edge to get you going.
Okay. No one ever needled me. They didn't want
to. Like poking the bear.
Didn't, yes. Awaken the sleeping lion.
A wee moe, a wee moe.
Very good here. Rock and roll Cleveland.
Is it the Tokens who have the original of the Lion Sleeps Tonight? And then it was remade in the 70s.
Why am I thinking? I'll look it up, but I think it's why am I thinking the Argyles? That makes sense.
The Argyles.
Let's see.
That ties right in with Curtis Granderson Sock Night.
Yes.
Which is coming right up, by the way. Tomlin's now retired 6 in a row. 2-2 to Granderson. And Curtis takes it high. Curtis got the proceedings started today with a leadoff home run against Tomlin in the first inning. And that's been the only scoring so far in a shadow-filled afternoon, dominated by Matt Harvey. 3-2. And it's in there. A high strike called by Dan Iasonia to get Granderson and end the inning. 6 strikeouts for Tomlin. We're halfway through in Cleveland. Granderson's home run has still stood up. Still 1-0 New York.
Good call, Gary. The Tokens.
throwers in baseball these days. This guy was the hardest thrower in baseball in his day, and that would be Bob Feller.
And our late colleague Ralph Kiner said he was one of the tough ones, obviously.
Well, Matt Harvey's been the tough one today. Flips the first pitch curveball in for a strike to Mike Napoli. 12 up and 12 down for Harvey. He got Napoli on a grounder to short his first time up. By the way, you mentioned Ralph. Today is the 70th anniversary of Ralph Kiner's Major League debut.
With the Pirates, of course, in 1946. So it would have been the year after the end of World War II. And Frankie Frisch was the manager of the then Pittsburgh Pirates. And it was a Pittsburgh loss on his opening day. And Ralph played center field.
Well, the center field part's surprising. The loss part, well, that was most of Ralph's career was playing for losing teams. He was the star attraction, and the fact that as a rookie in his big league debut he hit third, that's the giveaway right there. 0-2 to Napoli with Santana and Gomes to follow against Harvey in the home fifth. Slowly hit. Right has to charge. Nice easy hop. And the throw on target to get Napoli. 13 up and 13 down for Matt Harvey.
Routine grounder. Come in and get the big hop. You can throw on the run or you can get set. Whatever you choose to do. David opted for the throw on the run.
David's throws have been better when he's been moving than they've been when he's been stationary.
He talked to him in the clubhouse today. He said he has difficulty, and it's nothing wrong with his shoulder, nothing wrong with his elbow. It's all related to his back issues. But he said he has a hard time when moving to left or right or back. Well, that's 3 out of 4. That's a little problematic.
He's made some good throws coming in, and that was just another one. Santana takes the curveball in the dirt, and it's 2-0. One of the rare times Harvey's been behind in the count today. That's had only one 3-ball count. That was against Napoli in the second. And he misses inside to Santana. 3-0.
Well, you got a tight ball game here. It's the one real home run threat here that you're going to pitch carefully to.
And Santana is also the one guy in this lineup who will be very patient and will take his walks.
He's walked over 100 times the last 2 seasons.
Walked twice in the game last night. And he has walked again, the first base runner of the day for the Indians. So Harvey had retired the first 13 Cleveland hitters. And Santana breaks that up with a 1-out walk. And now Matt will have to pitch from the stretch for the first time today. Yan Gomes will be the batter. Gomes bounced out to short his first time up. Main strip of shadow almost out to the mound now. Gomes gets under one to left. Conforto called off by De Aza, and that's the second out. So 2 away. Santana still at first. And now Jose Ramirez probably has the hardest hit ball of this game for the Indians. He lined out to Granderson in right field in the third. Ramirez just 23 years old. He's been in the big league since he was 20. As a super utility player. There goes the runner. Darno throwing from his knees, and it goes into center field. Santana steals the base, and he'll stay put.
Well, that was stolen off the pitcher right there, Garrett. Matt Harvey not paying any attention. And just a really good jump. There's nothing that Darno could do here. Too good a jump.
First stolen base of the year for Santana, who had 11 last year.
And it's the 9th stolen base for the Indians here. They come into the this part of this night's game, second in the American League of stolen bases.
So the tying run in scoring position with 2 out. A 1-strike count to Ramirez. And he takes a fastball for a strike, and Matt's ahead 0-2.
You got a tight ball game like this, we're basically in the middle of the game. You're nurturing a one-run lead. You got to pay attention to the runners.
Harvey ahead 0-2. And he comes inside and just missed.
Matt's really working both sides of the plate, Gary, really nicely. When he pitches inside, he misses and doesn't miss out over the middle. He misses in. Can't get hurt off the plate.
Outfield playing shallow and toward left against Ramirez, who pulled the ball his first time up. And he hits this one to center, chasing De Aza back, way back, and over his head, and that'll tie up the game. Santana scores. Ramirez in at second with the Indians' first hit of the game. A run-scoring double that ties the game at 1. Well, we mentioned the outfield was playing shallow, and De Aza got burned.
Fastball away, and it's down. But had a little bit of the plate. Short hops the wall.
So Harvey was perfect for 4 1/3. He held the Indians without a hit for 4 2/3, but that's gone, and so is the Mets' lead. And now Juan Uribe with the go-ahead run at second. Uribe fouled out to Duda his first time up. And Harvey bounces the slider, ball 1. That pitch he really hasn't had great command of today.
Well, he doesn't want to give up a base hit here. He kind of overthrew that one. I think Gary got on top of it too much. He knows we've got a professional hitter up here in Uribe.
Uribe had 3 hits last night in his first game against the Mets.
Got an open base if he falls behind.
First game against the Mets since leaving them at the end of last year. Tyler Naquin would be next. Uribe is the only hitter in the Indians lineup today who had faced Matt Harvey before today. And he lines one and a left of base hit. Ramirez around third. He'll score the go-ahead run. Juan Uribe with an RBI single to put the Indians up 2-1.
Boy, those walks will haunt you. 2-0 fastball. Ripped. 2 outs. You're moving on contact. Ramirez can run. Fastball away, and you saw it move back over the inner half. Not a good pitch. Not where he wanted it.
So 2-out RBI hits for the 7 and 8 hitters, Ramirez and Uribe. And Cleveland leads 2-1. Now the number 9 hitter Naquin. And he takes a strike. Well, it's a very small sample size, but so far this year, when Matt has gotten hurt, it's been in the middle innings.
That's usually the second time through the order here. Oh, threw that fastball right by him.
Naquin fly to center his first time up. Couldn't get him to chase upstairs. 1-2. Tyler Naquin, first-round draft pick out of Texas A&M in 2012, and getting his first chance to play in the big leagues. One-two, struck him out to end the inning. 4th strikeout for Harvey, but the perfect game, the no-hitter, and the lead all gone. Indians score twice and lead 2-1 after 5. Mets got a first inning home run from Curtis Granderson, but the Indians scoring twice against Matt Harvey in the 5th to take the lead. Mets box score brought to you by Land Rover. Granderson's home run accounting for the Mets' only run. They've had 4 hits over the first 5 innings against Josh Tomlin, for whom there is now concern as Terry Francona is out at the mound with the trainer to see if Tomlin is okay. They got Jeff Manship up in the bullpen, and it looks like Tomlin's coming out of the game. He went out there and threw some warm-ups to start the inning. But Tomlin, who threw 75 pitches over 5 innings in his first start of the year, leaving because it appears he has some kind of an injury or medical issue.
Well, he's had nothing but arm troubles in his past, as we mentioned. Tommy John surgery, shoulder surgery last year.
So Jeff Manship, who had just begun to warm up just as the inning was about to begin, I guess as the Indians realize there might be an issue with Tomlin, is going to come in and get as long as he needs to warm up to start the top of the 6th. So Tomlin, the Indians' number 5 starter, who finished the season so well last year after shoulder surgery, forced to leave his first start of this season after 5 innings. He got hit very hard early in this game, but then he retired the last 7 batters to face him before taking this early exit. Call to the bullpen is brought to you by Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. As Jeff Manship warms up, we'll step out. 2-1 Indians after 5. We'll be right back. Jeff Manship comes on in relief of an injured Josh Tomlin as we start the 6th inning.
Well,
David Wright leading off, and he
Drills one to deep left field. Back goes Ramirez looking up, and it's off the top of the wall. David digging for second. Here comes the throw by Ramirez. He may get him, and he is out at second base. David missed a home run by about a foot at the top of that 19-foot wall. But Ramirez played the carom perfectly and got him by a healthy margin at second base.
I think David thought this one was out. I don't know if he got out of the box and ran down that line. I think he thought it was a home run and played perfectly. Gary, you called it, by Ramirez, and he's dead to rights. And he is out, no doubt about it.
So Manship is greeted rudely but gets a break. And now Michael Conforto takes low and in. Conforto drilled a double his last time up. Here's David coming out of the box.
Well, he's hustling down the line. He didn't take anything for granted here.
It just was a perfect carom and a good throw.
Perfectly played off the carom.
Yep. Well, the Mets last night had 2 runners thrown out at home plate.
Yep.
Now they have a runner thrown out at second base leading off the inning. And this is where the ball hit the wall.
Well, this is very much like Fenway, but much deeper, of course.
And not quite as high.
And that ball was a line drive, was a rocket.
Fenway is 37 feet on the Green Monster. This is 19 feet. Kipnis well into the outfield. And a good stretch at first by Napoli. And they get Conforto for the second out.
Well, the shift here works to the Phillies. Geez, I'm not even doing the Phillies series. The Indians.
It's the same colors. That's what confused you.
Nice stretch. Does stay on the bag.
Kipnis is not known as a great glove at second base. He's had a pretty good series out there. Here's Cespedes, who's been up twice and struck out twice, and he takes a breaking ball for a strike from Manship. It appeared as though Josh Tomlin might have hurt his leg while warming up for this 6th inning. Slowly hit. It comes up for Lindor. And he throws out Cespedes. And that ends the inning. Inning that looked like it had started well for the Mets. But David Wright gunned down, trying to stretch a single off the wall into a double. Jose Ramirez making the throw. Jason Kipnis the tag. And that put a big crimp in the inning. Mets still down 2-1 in the 6th. Jake Arrieta, 8 scoreless innings, 8 strikeouts. Cubs beat the Rockies 6-2. Cubs are now 9-2. The Twins win their 2nd in a row after starting out 0-9, as they got home runs in the 8th inning from Oswaldo Arcia and Byung-Ho Park to beat the Angels 6-4. And Adam Wainwright got beat up. Reds beat the Cardinals 9-8. Cincinnati snaps a 4-game losing streak. Top of the batting order, Rajay Davis offers at the bunt attempt and misses. So Matt Harvey looking to settle back in after retiring the first 13 batters and then giving up a couple of runs in the 5th. Davis has struck out and hit a broken bat bloop that Neil Walker caught.
It was a 2-out, 2-run 5th inning there. 2-out RBIs, double from Ramirez and a single from Uribe.
Little tapper past the mound. Tough play, Cabrera, and he'll have to put it in his pocket. Once that ball got by Harvey with the speed of Rajay Davis, There was no play.
Yeah, Matt followed through on the other side of the mound. Just too much speed down the line here.
Rajai is 35 years old, but he can still go. So it's an infield hit for Davis, the third hit in the last 4 batters against Harvey. And now Jason Kipnis is 0 for 2. Struck out and grounded out.
And now you're hitting in complete shadow, and the ball just becomes a little darker. You'd rather hit in complete shadow than in and out of sunlight.
Pitcher in shadow, hitter in sunlight. That'll last for another couple of minutes.
Still, it's still an advantage pitcher.
And not paying attention to Davis. 18 stolen bases last year, 4 more already this year. Carlos Santana stole a base to set up the first run in the last inning. And Harvey busts one inside that just misses 1-1.
Matt wanted that strike.
Francisco Lindor waiting on deck. Rajai Davis, noted base stealer. In his big league debut with the Pirates. He's been with 6 different teams now. He's running. Darno with the throw on a hop. Not in time. And Davis has his 5th stolen base of the year and his 2nd in this series.
Watch the wiggle hand on Darno. How he kind of wiggles up top. That's a little wasted motion, although another terrific jump off Harvey here.
Well, this is certainly one concern with the Mets' young starting pitchers. And with Darno behind the plate, other teams are looking to run.
That's why they call it stolen base. It steals a run also. Now you got a runner in scoring position, a left-hand hitter, over and in or drive him in.
And Kipnis laces one toward the gap in left center, and that'll go all the way back to the wall. Davis is in. Kipnis pulls it to second with an RBI double, and it's 3-1 Cleveland. 4th hit, 3rd double of the series for Kipnis.
Matt Harvey has been throwing predominantly just fastball change and a lot of fastballs, Garrett. Not really throwing a breaking ball. This fastball's up and out over the plate. Belt high. It's on the location on the corner, but it's up. And we saw Kipnis last night, Garrett, hit a ball into that gap. So good hitting by Kipnis.
Harvey went 4 2/3 before he gave up a hit, but now he's given up 4 hits to the last 5 batters. And Francisco Lindor is up there looking to
third hitter
at least bunt the runner over.
Third hitter bunting? I don't think so. It's funny, Harvey is getting hit as the shadows are moved into his favor.
Lindor 0 for 2 today, 0 for 7 in this series. And again asked to bunt and lays down a perfect one. Right fields it. And the throw in time to get Lindor. Sacrifice goes 5-4, moving Kipnis to 3rd. Well, you might question the strategy, but you can't execute much better than that.
I just never seen a third hitter bunt before. I'm sorry. Why is he your third hitter? A beautiful bunt. Really, with the injury to Brantley, who's on the DL, it's just totally moved this lineup around. Kipnis is, what, a leadoff hitter?
They'll probably hit leadoff. Lindor will hit second once Bradley comes back.
And they're both suited for him.
Well, here's Napoli. The infield comes in with Kipnis at third and 1 out. Napoli's been up twice, grounded out to the left side both times. And the Mets are playing 3 infielders on the left side this time, with Walker shifted over.
Need of a strikeout.
Napoli hits one past the mound. That'll get the runner in, and it trickles into center field. Kipnis scores. Napoli with a broken bat. RBI hit on the wrong side of second base from where the Mets were playing it. And it's 4-1 Cleveland.
Well, all you people that say we don't care about strikeouts, well, you strike out, nothing can happen. Put the ball in play, ball's broken bat, something can happen in a positive way, and it does here.
So 2 runs are home in the inning, and it's 4-1 Cleveland. And now Carlos Santana, who was the first base runner of the day against Harvey when he walked with 1 out in the 5th, is now up again here in the 6th. And the Mets bullpen is going to start to get loose. Looks like Rafael Montero is going to get up. Montero was added to the roster earlier this week, but is yet to get in the game. When he came up, Eric Campbell was sent down, and the Mets were going with an extra pitcher. Campbell is now back, taking Jacob deGrom's spot on the roster. deGrom today placed on the family medical leave list because of complications involving his infant son. So he'll remain in Florida with his wife and young son for the next 3 to 7 days. Knocked down by d'Arnaud, but the runner takes off, and arriving safely at second base is Napoli. Good base running by Napoli. It's not all that fast, but judged that ball well once it hit the dirt.
Well, the Indians have been very, very alert and aggressive on the bases. And nothing that d'Arnaud can do here. He blocks it nicely. Just no hesitation from Napoli. You don't have to be a quick runner. It's all about your reaction, your quick break.
So it's a wild pitch. Charge to Harvey, advancing Napoli into scoring position. 2-1 to Santana. And he bounces that curveball, and it's 3-1. And Harvey completely out of sorts now.
That slider has eluded him so far this year. And that has been Matt's undoing. And the reason for this slow, sluggish start of his.
He's given up 5 hits to the last 7 batters. And behind 3-1, and Santana takes well out of the strike zone for ball 4. Second walk of the day for Harvey. Both have gone to Santana. Dan Warthen is going to visit the mound.
30 seconds down.
That's why he's hustling.
I don't like that rule. I think it should be allowed 30 seconds on the mound. Once he gets into the dirt of the mound, then you have 30 seconds to talk to your pitcher.
Well, the clock is at 6, 5, 4, and the home plate umpire is already walking out to break it up. How about that?
Well, that's the rule.
Well, things started so well for Harvey. He struck out the side in the first, 3 up and 3 down in the second, third, and fourth. Got the first man out in the 5th. But since then, it has been awfully difficult, as Matt has allowed 7 of the last 10 batters to reach base. And now with 2 on and 1 out, Yan Gomes will bat. Gomes is grounded out and flied out 0 for 2. Napoli at second, Santana at first with 1 out. And that's lined the other way for a base hit. Napoli around third. He's going to be waved home. Granderson's throw goes toward third. The run scores. It's an RBI hit for Yan Gomes to make it 5-1 Cleveland.
Another fastball up, Gare. Up and out over the plate. Taken into the opposite field. Another hitter going the opposite field. Right down the pipe and up. Surprised that Terry hasn't gone for the hook here.
Yeah, this may be about Montero's ability to get loose. A starting pitcher pitching out of the bullpen.
Oh, nice little series of base running by Napoli. And the back runner here very wisely. And that is Santana holding up.
Indians now 5 for 5 with runners in scoring position.
Fastball straight as a string and too much plate right down the pipe. Up.
Jose Ramirez, who drove in the first run for the Indians in the 5th inning, now up again in an RBI situation. And he pops this one foul off to the left. In the 5th inning with 2 outs, Santana stole second with Ramirez at the plate, and the Mets played Ramirez like a pitcher, shallow and toward left field, and he burned the strategy, hitting it well over the head of Alejandro De Aza in center field. Now De Aza playing much deeper against Ramirez than he did the last time.
Staying with Matt a very long time here. And again, as we said in the open, Gare, the breaking ball has eluded Matt. And he's thrown an awful lot of fastballs.
And not at top velocity.
Correct.
That's drilled down the right field line. Foul. Ramirez hitting another ball hard. It was a walk in the park for Matt Harvey. Has become a nightmare these last 2 innings. That's popped up in the shallow center. Now De Aza's going to come in. Out goes Cabrera to make the catch. Infield flyer was never called because it was never a routine play, but Cabrera makes a nice play to retire Ramirez for the 2nd out.
Another nice play by Cabrera here, and ironically De Aza moves back because the ball's been over his head. And they almost got a dork in there.
Was ever thus. So now 2 out, and the 8th man up in the inning will be Juan Uribe, who drove in a run with a base hit in the 5th inning to put the Indians in front 2-1. They've added 3 runs here in the 6th to make it 5-1. And that bounces that slider, ball 1.
And that's how many sliders has he bounced, and that is something that he needs to go down with Dan Morton and try to rediscover. There's a good one.
You can see on our score bug that his pitch count is very low. He's only thrown 82 pitches, but keep in mind he threw 38 in the first 4 innings. Which means he's had to work awfully hard these last 2. Uribe fouls it off.
You can see the velocity, Gare. He's been consistently at 92, 93.
Right.
And he just hasn't got the oomph on that fastball that he needs.
His first 2 starts of the season, he averaged 95 on his fastball.
And we mentioned in spring training we were concerned that did he get enough work in spring training to get him ready to go north.
Well, Terry Collins was talking about that today with about all his young starters, about the balance between the extra workload they had last year with pitching into November versus getting them ready for this season without overtaxing them. And we've seen DeGrom's velocity down. We've seen Harvey's velocity down today. We haven't seen that with Syndergaard. Certainly his velocity has not been an issue. Didn't see Steven Matz for very long, but we'll see him again tomorrow.
Got to get guys ready.
2-2. And he misses upstairs with another slider, and it's a full count to Uribe.
And you can just see the body language of Matt here, that he is fighting himself here. And this is what you need. You look for in a pitcher. If things aren't going your way, you really got to tough it up and get through it.
Runners will take off. Santana from second, Gomes from first, 3-2. And Uribe takes just low ball 4, and that loads the bases.
Squeezed them.
That's going to be all for Matt Harvey. Certainly a pitch Dan Iasonia could have called a strike, but did not.
Borderline knees. He's been a high ball umpire all day.
Third walk given up by Harvey, second in the inning, and that's the last pitch he'll throw today. Harvey will exit after 5 2/3. 4 great innings, and then an inning and 2/3 that did not go nearly the way Matt would have liked. Call to the bullpen brought to you by Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. Rafael Montero will make his season debut when we come back. Debut for the Mets. Missed most of last year with some vague shoulder issues after starting out the year and making 5 early season appearances.
The vague shoulder issues have put him into a little bit of a doghouse with management here, and he's here because of DeGrom, obviously, and DeGrom's issues, but also a very taxed bullpen and a guy that can eat up innings in a game like this in the middle.
Comes in with the bases loaded, 2 out to face Tyler Naquin. Montero made 1 start for Las Vegas before being called up. It was a good one, went 5 innings, 3 hits, 2 runs, 1 earned. And now back in the big leagues. Made his major league debut 2 years ago when he made 8 starts for the Mets and had middling results. Still just 25 years old, and still hold out hope that Montero can be a significant contributor. Meanwhile, Matt Harvey leaves after 5 2/3, 6 hits, 5 runs so far, and responsible for 3 more runners, 3 walks, 4 strikeouts, and a wild pitch. A day that started so well for Matt crashed down in a hurry.
Big at bat here, the kind of a bat you want to thrive in, want to be in, and break the game wide open with a base hit or a gapper.
Naquin 0 for 2 today. And he goes down looking at the fastball, inning over. So Montero throws 3 pitches and gets the out that ends the inning. But the Indians tack on 3 and lead 5-1 after 6. Well, Matt Harvey, through his first 3 starts this year, has been great early in games, not so great after that. Was perfect for 4 1/3 today, and then things did not go well. Changes for the Indians. Jose Ramirez moves from left field to third base. Rajay Davis moves from right field to left field, and Colin Cowgill, who we didn't quite notice, ran for Juan Uribe in the last inning. Stays in the game in right field, a former Met. And Zach McAllister will pitch as we go to the 7th.
Well, there's 3 games this season so far. He's been perfect, probably an inning each outing. The right-hander.
McAllister, originally a Yankee farmhand, gets a strike over to Duda. McAllister was a starter for the early portion of his Indians career, regular member of their rotation in 2012, 2013. Last year worked almost exclusively out of the bullpen. Seen a couple of guys in this series for the Indians who've made that move. Trevor Bauer, who pitched last night. McAllister, who's an imposing figure at 6'6". And Duda fouls off the fastball, 1-2. Well, the Mets grabbed the early lead in this game. Curtis Granderson led off the first inning with a home run against Josh Tomlin, who gave up some bullets after that but held the Mets at bay. Tomlin eventually leave the game with what they're calling a right hamstring cramp. Jeff Manship survived a hard hit 6th inning, and now McAllister in the 7th, and he strikes out Duda to start the inning.
Fastball running away. Not a good cut from Lucas. Beat him. Pretty hard thrower here. He can bring it up there a little bit. Good arm.
If I recall correctly, when the Mets were last here in 2013, McAllister started a game in that series against the Mets. Neil Walker takes outside. Walker's 0 for 2. He's grounded out and flied out. Mets 1 run, 5 hits. The Indians 5 runs, 6 hits. Mets have had their share of hard hit balls turned into outs today. Walker had one of those. He had a bullet that Mike Napoli was able to make a terrific backhand play on.
Well, that 2nd inning, they hit 4 straight rockets and could have had a big inning there, but just 2 outstanding plays defensively by the Indians.
McAllister flips the breaking ball over and gets ahead 1-2. Well, in that 2nd inning, he had Duda and Walker both get robbed on really hard hit balls, and then a single and a double, but the Mets couldn't cash in, and that's really been a season-long concern, getting hits with runners in scoring position. Well, they were 0 for 10 last night. They're 0 for 2 so far today. Mets came into the day as a team hitting .159 with runners in scoring position through the first 9 games. One-two. Walker fouls it away. Then in the 6th inning, David Wright led off with what was very close to a home run, hitting one high off the fence and left, and got thrown out trying to stretch it into a double, and that put a crimp in that inning. That's kind of the way the day has gone. Walker lays off the curve in the dirt. 2-2. McAllister was dealt from the Yankees to the Indians as a minor leaguer in the deal that brought Austin Kearns to the Yankees. His entire big league career now has been in Cleveland. Walker hits it out to center field. Naquin has it lined up. 2 out. New York Mets baseball is brought to you by BV Vodka. Flavored by Sicily. Go to bvvodka.com.
Was that? Did you say Sicilian vodka? No.
That's what it said.
Amazing.
I've never heard of that. Now we have.
I didn't know they grew potatoes in Sicily. I thought there were olive groves out there.
I guess they've diversified. Asdrubal Cabrera is 1 for 2.
I'm game.
I mean, they must grow tomatoes. They've got all that great red sauce.
Yes. What?
I'm just thinking about what other crops they have in Sicily. I mean, it's a great gastronomic paradise.
Yes. Absolutely. Mount Etna.
And now they have something to wash it all down with.
Syracuse. Used to be the big port there. It still is.
Didn't move. 3-0 to Cabrera. I always thought Syracuse was in central New York. 3-0 from McAllister, and he misses high ball 4, so Cabrera draws a 2-out walk. Cabrera came into the series having not drawn a walk this season. Now he's got 2. And the Mets have a 2-out base runner for Travis d'Arnaud. Travis doubled to left center in the second inning. He flied out to left in the 5th. 1 for 2 on the day. Mets will have Steven Matz on the mound tomorrow in the final game of this series, looking for a bounce back after his early exit against the Marlins on Monday. And the Mets will be going up against the former Cy Young Award winner Corey Kluber. One and 1 to d'Arnaud, and he gets drilled, and he'll go to first base.
I got him on the hand or the wrist. You don't want it on the wrist. You see McAllister's a little wild here. The catcher set up away. Oh, elbow. Ouch. That's going to hurt.
Maybe more like the forearm.
That's going to hurt.
Remember last year, d'Arnaud had his wrist broken early in the season on an A.J. Ramos fastball. That cost him his first trip to the disabled list. And that arm is aching right now.
I'd love to see that again. It hurts, and that's it. Never let the pitcher know he hurt you. This guy throws hard. That had to hurt. I am sorry. Let's see. That's on the bone too, on that ulna, just below the elbow. It hurts.
That's where Cabrera got hit last night, right on the elbow. So the Mets have 2 men on, and Alejandro De Aza will try and make something of it. De Aza had one of the best opportunities for the Mets back in the second inning after they hit 4 straight balls hard against Josh Tomlin. Second and third, 2 out, but he struck out on a curveball in the dirt. Now he's up with 2 out and 2 on. McAllister threw the fastball by him, 0-1.
That's what's Brian Shaw up in the bullpen there. He's their bridge to closer Cody Allen.
De Aza, having played in the AL Central, seen plenty of McAllister. 5 hits in 19 at bats against him.
Well, you've seen now pretty much in the first 2 games, for all you Met fans that have been watching, the weakness to this Indian club, the bullpen's a little suspect. They have issues getting it to Cody Allen, who's an outstanding closer.
You know, if the Met fans weren't watching, they wouldn't hear you.
Well,
by very subtly prodding them.
You mean just keep them engaged longer? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, you must watch.
Nobody's going to turn off their TV when there's a chance that you may speak again.
Oh yeah, right.
Because you just never know.
Well, then they don't have to watch when you go to Philadelphia. I won't be there.
Well, but they'll want to hear what Ronnie has to say. But you know, they pay attention to what you say.
I know. I got to be careful. I'm on the record.
Yes, you are. Constantly. 3 hours every night on the record. Live.
I feel like I'm on Greta's show. What a beautiful day.
The shadows have now passed the mound, so hitter and pitcher for the first time today are both in complete shadow, and it will remain that way the rest of the day. Cabrera at second, d'Arnaud at first with 2 out. McAllister really taking his time.
I'll say.
And De Aza watches wide, 2-2.
Outside.
Well, the Indians have struggled early in the season in their bullpen.
Look at the Rangers.
Whew. Not good. 2 out, 2 on, 2-2 to De Aza. And he hits one out to center field, chasing Naquin back, but he's got plenty of room. And that retires the side. So McAllister works around a walk and a hit by pitch. And the Mets are turned aside in the top of the 7th. Look out! Incoming! Well, if you're a baseball fan, of course, you've seen that before. That was game 1 of the 1954 World Series. Willie Mays robbing Vic Wirtz on that 480-foot fly ball. But what you may not know is how good the Cleveland Indians, the team that lost that World Series, was that year. 111 wins in only a 154-game season.
That is absolutely incredible. You see the 22, 23-game winners. Mike Garcia won 19. Feller only 13 that year.
Yeah, he was 35 at that point. Kevin Plawecki's in for Travis d'Arnaud, who got hit on the elbow in that last half inning. Rajay Davis leads off and takes a strike from Rafael Montero. Al Rosen was on that team at 300 that year. 24 homers, 102 RBIs. So he and Doby were the 1-2 punch offensively for that 111 win Indians team.
Avila was the second baseman, Bobby Avila. Am I right?
Yep. He
was a heck of a player.
Hit 341 that year.
Yeah, he was a heck of a player.
Drilled to right field, but right at Granderson in the sunshine for the first out. Oh, look at that. That's the team picture from the 54 American League champions. 111 wins.
Oh, I like that with the crown. Very nice. That was 1 year old. Gare. How about that?
Didn't the Yankees win 103 that year and finish second by 8 games? Imagine that. This fella on the lower right. Here's Jason Kipnis taking a strike. Kipnis drove in a run with a double against Matt Harvey in the 3-run 6th inning. Well, people talk all the time about the Cubs and their drought. And for years they talked about the Red Sox and their drought. Well, it's been a long time for the Cleveland Indians since they've won a World Series as well. Go back to 1948.
Well, this is the reason why Montero is here. He is going to have to, I would think, no matter what happens, he's going to finish this game and chew up some innings.
Well, he's a starting pitcher, so there's no reason why he shouldn't be able to do that. Kipnis hits one toward the hole, and that's a base hit. But Kipnis had a terrific series.
Keep on pitching him outside. You're asking for just nothing but trouble. He goes the other way naturally. Hits the ball where it's pitched.
5 hits in the series now for Kipnis. And here's Francisco Lindor looking for his first hit in the series. Lindor 0 for 2, sacrificed his last time up. Indians now with 7 hits on the afternoon. Harvey went 5 2/3, allowed 5 runs, 6 hits, 3 walks, 4 strikeouts.
Going right with it, down and away, a good pitch too. But you're pitching into a hitter's strength.
Well, in this series, Kipnis last night had a double to left, a double to center, and a single to right. Today, a double to left center and a single to left. So he has used the whole field. He's just a good hitter.
He's a good hitter, no question. I wonder how the heck he hit 240 2 years ago.
Well, he had an oblique injury that year, which he tried to play through. And then last year bounced back and hit 303. Now Montero behind on Lindor, 3-0. Rafael Montero came up through the Mets farm system with a reputation as a pitcher who could dot the I with his fastball. Tremendous command, great control, and it just never played at the big league level. There's a strike, 3-1.
Well, he's a changeup guy too. We always heard about his changeup, and when you're down in the lower classifications, Gary, those young kids don't see a changeup. As you move up the food chain in classification, AA, they get hitters are more experienced. They've seen the changeup. AAA for sure. You're not going to be able to get away with a changeup down the pipe that you did in A-ball or rookie league. So you lose your confidence. Start getting batted around.
Line drive to right. Granderson over. Diving. Can't get it. Kipnis on his way to third as Granderson retrieves. Kipnis being waved home. Walker will not make a relay throw. It's an RBI double for Francisco Lindor to make it 6-1 Indians.
Ripped just out of the reach. Looked like Granderson just made just before stutter step there. That called ball might have been blown away from him. The wind is blowing directly in today. And this is right down the pipe, down into a left-hand hitter's power, full extension of the arms.
Well, Lindor, who hit .313 as a rookie last year, had been held in check in this series, but smoked that ball to drive in a run. Now, this is a game where the first 13 Indians were retired. They didn't get their first hit until 2 out in the 5th, and they haven't stopped hitting since. Mike Napoli squeezed one past a drawn-in infield to drive in a run in the 6th inning. And that skips away from Plawecki, and over to third goes Lindor. So a wild pitch thrown by Montero, and the damage just keeps getting worse.
Not a good job as far as Plawecki trying to block that ball. Very slow footwork, hardly any footwork.
Now the infield has to come in with the Mets already down by 5 runs. Montero behind on Napoli 2-0. And now 3-0. Second straight hitter that Montero's fallen behind 3-0. Santana on deck. Napoli swinging, and he ropes one into right to drive in another run. So Mike Napoli swinging 3-0, drives in his second run of the day, and the Indians have blown the doors off this game. It's now 7-1.
Well, we came in here and we're told that Terry Francona is a proponent of 3-0, letting his hitters swing the bat. Nice level swing. He said 3-0 is probably the best pitch you're ever going to get to hit. Percentage-wise, where a pitcher can groove one, and I agree. I'm 100% with him.
I think some managers feel that hitters get too anxious on 3-0 and maybe get outside themselves, but if it works, it works.
Well, know your personnel.
Right. Well, Napoli went the other way on 3-0.
Yep.
That worked perfectly. And Santana.
You know, the philosophy is if you're hitting 3-0, you look middle in trying to hit a home run. Not necessarily. When the men are out there to drive in, get a base hit. Pitcher's probably going to keep it away.
Santana down to first. Duda, fair ball, steps on the bag. Tag play at second. And Cabrera makes the tag to end the inning. 3-3-6 on the double play. But 2 tack-on runs for the Indians. Duda handles this well, right at the bag, and Cabrera does the rest. 7-1 Indians after 7. Beat the Cardinals 9-8. Jake Arrieta 8 scoreless innings. Cubs beat the Rockies 6-2. Tonight Max Scherzer goes against Aaron Nola in Philadelphia. The Nats off to an 8-1 start. And the Pirates host the Brewers with John Neese making his second start. Pittsburgh trying to snap a 4-game losing streak. Braves are at the Marlins after getting their first win last night. Diamondbacks are at San Diego, and the Giants and Dodgers after LA beat up on Madison Bumgarner. Kiki Hernandez taking Bumgarner deep twice.
And seriously deep. And there's Brian Shaw. 3 seasons with the Indians and 3 solid seasons.
We will see one pitch from him. Cutters all day long. Curtis Granderson leads off in the 8th inning. Mets now down 7-1. The Indians scoring 2 in the 5th, 3 in the 6th, 2 in the 7th. After Matt Harvey held them without a hit for the first 4 2/3. Granderson led off the game with a home run, and he hits this one out to left, and that's going to fall in unoccupied territory. And Curtis will get 2 bases out of this. A broken bat opposite field double.
Well, tied him up with a cutter. Out over the plate. And you'll take it. 2 hits for Curtis today. Starting to get himself going here after a terrible start.
First 2 extra base hits of the season for Granderson. A home run and a double today. So the Mets have their 6th hit. And now David Wright, who had the last one before Granderson. A base hit high off the wall and left, but he got thrown out trying to get to second. Takes a cutter for a strike. We'll wait for medical word on Travis d'Arnaud, who came out of the game after getting plunked on the elbow in the last inning. After losing Travis to the disabled list twice early in the season last year, Mets certainly hope that nothing is amiss this time. That will keep him out for a significant period of time. Last year it was a hit by pitch that hurt him the first time. The second one was a freak play where he hurt his elbow. Remember that tag he made on A.J. Brzezinski in Atlanta? That put him back on the DL only about a week after he'd come off the first time. But it was when d'Arnaud and Wright came back in August to join all those newcomers after the deadline that the Mets offense was remade. 3-1 now to Wright. Brian Shaw, now 28 years old, pitched in college at Long Beach State. Off to a rough start so far this year in his first 3 outings. And he walks David Wright, so the Mets have the first 2 men on.
Well, Shaw throws this cutter. Now watch the front shoulder. And he really turns his back. And I think he turns his almost pointing. Look at his arm. It's pointing towards third base. And then he comes across. I think he does that to get that extra bite, because he has to come across his body, and it's almost like stepping into the third base dugout down the third base line and throwing across your body, which gets you to get that more bite on your cutter.
Here's Michael Conforto. That's trying to build something here in the 8th inning, down by 6 runs. Granderson an opposite field double, Wright a walk. Conforto's 1 for 3 on the day. He's had 2 terrific defensive plays made against him. One by Rajay Davis, a diving catch in right center, and the other by Jason Kipnis ranging over toward the right field line to catch his ground ball and throw him out. And now Shaw's behind him 2-0, and the crowd's starting to get a little restless.
Now this is a situation 7-1 right here when you got a young hitter up here in Conforto. If you're a veteran hitter, you know what, you're 2-0, you give a strike and you just go, okay, we're down 6 runs. I'm going to look for something out over the plate, in middle in. I'm going to take away and look for something to hit out of the ballpark. And a 3-run home run puts you maybe 7-4 right back in the ball game. But I wouldn't, if I was managing, I wouldn't ask this of Conforto. not this early in his career.
Here's the strike, 2-1. Coming up next on Pix 11, it's Broadway Boxing Countdown. And next on SNY, it's WB Mason Postgame Live. Cespedes on deck. 2-1 to Conforto. And he fouls off the cutter. Conforto in his second straight game, hitting third in the order. Home run last night, double tonight. Can I say tonight now that it's 6:30?
No.
Even though it's still light.
We're actually going to have a nice dinner hour tonight for a change.
What if the Mets tie it up and we play 18?
Well, then, it's plan B.
A later dinner.
Maybe not in maybe a shrimp cocktail, just a little protein before you go to bed. Nothing worse than that late meal. And you can't do it. You just can't. Not at our age. Our metabolism slows down when you get older.
Speak for yourself. Some of us aren't quite as old as you are. Two and two to Conforto. Off speed, ripped foul. So Shaw finally threw something other than a cutter, and Conforto got well out ahead of it.
Oh my!
There's your protein.
Yeah.
Have a little of that.
Oh,
little bratwurst. That'll liven up the arteries.
I will stick with the shrimp and the crab cocktail.
So it's crustaceans or nothing. Seventh pitch of the at bat coming from Shaw to Conforto. And he's got him with a cutter inside. First down of the inning.
Well, good spot. That cutter is from a right-hander on the hands of a left-hander. Is something I didn't like.
Neither did anybody who faced number 42 in pinstripes. Rivera.
Oh, of course. Well, used that whole Montreal pitching staff had cutters. Charlie Lee, that when Gary Carter was there.
Cespedes drives one deep left field. Forget that. That is way out of here. Yoenis Cespedes clocks a 3-run homer to get the Mets back in the game. His second of the series, his third of the year. He jumps first pitch from Shaw. A 3-run shot for Cespedes to get the Mets back to within 3.
A hanging cutter down the pipe and down in the strike zone. Boom. That's right where he likes it, and he knew it.
All of a sudden, Cespedes is heating up. 3 hits last night, including a double and a home run. And this one, first pitch, bomb. Mickey Callaway, the Indians pitching coach, is out at the mound to talk to Shaw, whose season has gotten off to a really rocky start. This is his 4th appearance, and he's gotten beat up. And he's just given up a 3-run homer to Cespedes to turn a 7-1 game into a 7-4 game, and the Indians bullpen will quickly go back to work. Well, Cespedes 3 homers in the last 6 games after being overmatched the first 3 or 4 games of the season. So Cody Allen up in the Indians bullpen. Cespedes now 4 for 9 in this series with 3 extra base hits. So the Mets, after homering 4 times last night, have 2 home runs today. Granderson and now Cespedes. And here's Duda, who's gone 0 for 3 today. Shaw gets ahead on Duda, 0-2. Neil Walker waiting on deck. And the curveball, he held the swing in time. 1-2. Maybe it's the horizontal stripes. Two to Lucas. Pops one up. And the second baseman Kipnis looking for it. 2 out. New York Mets baseball is brought to you by Mazda. Driving matters. So 2 out and nobody on. And now Neil Walker has gone 0 for 3 today. Our next picks telecast next weekend, Saturday night, Sunday afternoon in Atlanta. The last 2 games of this road trip. See you then. What a beautiful day this has been. 56 degrees right now. Still plenty of sunshine. 2-1 to Walker. Walker homered last night.
He cracks this one deep to right field. Down the line, headed toward the wall. It's out of here. Neil Walker with a home run. His second in 2 days, his third of the year, and now it's 7-5 Cleveland. Wow, the big home run bats of the New York Mets breaking out 2 days in Cleveland. Mets were down 7-1 when this inning began. It's now 7-5.
It seems like every time Cespedes hits a home run, Walker answers. Both their third home runs of the season. Hanging cutter.
They both homered in the 5th inning last night. They both homer in the 8th inning today. And that's going to force Terry Francona to bring his closer into the game. They'll bring in Cody Allen to try and get a 4-out save. 3-run homer Cespedes, solo shot Walker. Mets back in at 7-5 Cleveland. We'll be right back.
to try and get a 4-out save.
Well, Allen has been the last 2 seasons their closer, is a strikeout guy. Last year 99 strikeouts and 69 in the third, 34 saves.
He's off to a rough start so far this year, making his 4th appearance as Drupal Cabrera will greet him with 2 out and nobody on in the 8th. Attacks the first pitch fastball, 0-1. Mets have 4 runs home in the inning. An opposite field double by Granderson, a walk to right, and then a 3-run homer from Cespedes to make it 7-4, and then 1 out later Neil Walker crushed a home run to make it 7-5. Kevin Plawecki on deck. Cabrera pulls one foul, and it's 0-2. Remember, Plawecki came on for d'Arnaud, who was hit on the arm by a pitch last inning. Still waiting on word on Travis. That's where 6 runs down when this inning began. And Cabrera pulls the curveball foul. Neil Walker showing how it's done. He's homered from both sides of the plate in this series. Cabrera 1 for 2 and a walk today, and he takes inside.
Good 0-2 pitch right there, up and in.
Well, Terry Collins said before the game today if he needed a closer it would be Jim Henderson. Henderson's up now. One-two. Cabrera bounces one on the right side. Kipnis makes the play, so Allen has to get 4 outs, gets the first one after the Mets put up a 4 spot in the 8th with 2 big swings of the bat. Yoenis Cespedes, a 3-run shot, his 3rd of the year. Neil Walker with his 3rd home run of the year, and the Mets now down 7-5 as we go to the bottom of the 8th in Cleveland. For the first Free Shirt Friday of 2016, April 29th, and the Mets take on the Giants at 7:10 p.m. All fans in attendance will receive a 2015 National League Champs t-shirt courtesy of 1-800-Flowers.com. For tickets, visit Mets.com/Free Shirt Fridays. Here's the Indians box score brought to you by Land Rover. No home runs for the Indians, but plenty of hits once Matt Harvey proved to be vulnerable. Matt held them without a hit for the first 4 2/3, but the Indians able to cash in for 7 runs and 9 hits against Harvey and Montero. And now it'll be Jim Henderson to pitch the bottom of the 8th, with the Mets having fought back to within 2 runs.
Well, Henderson's last 2 outings have been tough. He's been a little overworked. Remember, he's come back from serious injury, and he's here to get 1 inning of work. A bit surprised. I thought maybe Terry might stick with Montero another inning, have Henderson and Blevins ready if he got in trouble, since the Mets are back in the game.
Montero gave up 2 runs in the 7th inning. And right now those 2 runs are the difference in the game. Yan Gomes will lead off the home 8th. It'll keep an eye on Henderson's velocity. His first pitch is at 91. Now remember, he was throwing 96 up to 97 his first couple of outings of the season.
You think
and then when he worked that back-to-back on Wednesday, he was throwing 89, 90. Big difference.
Good fastball there, 92. You got to wonder about the different guns now. The two outings in New York, obviously the same gun. Now you got a different gun here. Some guns.
Well, 91, 92, 93 on the first 3 pitches by Henderson, so that's encouraging. Well, he's had a couple of days off after he pitched the back-to-backs. Yeah, the career high 34 pitches Tuesday night, and then came back and couldn't get anybody out on Wednesday. Looking more like his old self today. Gomes lays off the slider, 1-2. Gomes is 1 for 3 and a base hit to drive in a run against Harvey in the 6th. Matt went 5 2/3, allowed 5 runs, 6 hits. Montero an inning and a third, 2 runs, 3 hits. In the 9th, the Mets will be due to set up 8, 9, and 1 on the order. Plawecki, De Aza, and Granderson. Gomes just getting a piece. Is that a hot dog with ketchup sitting in the stands?
Yes.
Sacrilege.
There's a mustard one out there too.
We want to get started on the whole mustard and ketchup on the hot dog thing. Lifted to center, and De Aza calling. Gomes retired, 1 away. Gets some people so upset if you disparage their favorite condiment.
Well, I was one guy that I don't like relish.
But how about sauerkraut? I mean, New York is a mustard and sauerkraut town.
When I was a kid, I did not like sauerkraut. As an adult, I can deal with it.
Grudgingly?
with mustard.
Here's Jose Ramirez, who's had a big hand in this game today for the Indians. Doubled in a run in the 5th.
There he is.
2 other balls hard. There's Mr. Hot Dog. And Ramirez also made that great throw from left field to throw out David Wright at second base. So he's been big today. 1-1. Mets 5 runs, 8 hits. The Indians 7 runs, 9 hits. Cowgill showing off his biceps on deck. Two. Little flare to short. Picked off by Cabrera. 2 down. So Henderson has retired his first 2. And now the former Met Colin Cowgill will bat for the first time. Came in as a pinch runner in the 6th, stayed in the game in right field. Cowgill looking for his first hit of the season. Colin, who very famously hit an opening day grand slam for the Mets in 2013.
Not to be confused with the Cowsills.
The rain in the park and other things. Hair.
Yes. Since we're in Cleveland.
Oh, the Cowsills did Indian Lake. And we're in Cleveland.
Hit toward the hole, backhanded Cabrera, can't make the transfer, and Cowgill has an infield hit.
First hit of the season for Cowgill.
Cabrera makes the exchange. He throws him out. Just couldn't find the grip.
So it's a 2-out infield hit for Colin Cowgill. And now Tyler Naquin will get another at bat. Naquin's 0 for 3 today, struck out twice. 0 for 5 in this series. The Indians have stolen 2 bases already today. Probably would be a good spot for Cowgill to try and swipe one. Jerry Blevins getting ready in the Mets bullpen. There is word on Travis d'Arnaud. It sounds like good news. Travis diagnosed with a left elbow contusion. They took x-rays. They were negative. So that's good news on d'Arnaud.
So he's bruised.
Yep. Well, you just worry about something broken in there, which
right.
Apparently it is not. Naquin takes it up and away, a ball and a strike. Well, unless the Mets rally in the 9th inning, Matt Harvey's going to fall to 0-3 through his first 3 starts.
Yes, he will.
His ERA after today's game is at 5.71 through his first 3 starts.
That's hit hard. Walker can't get it. Base hit. Cowgill on his way to third. Granderson gets it in, and the Indians have runners at the corners. So Tyler Naquin has his first hit of the series.
This ball was ripped. Picked it off the ground almost. Like shades of Mookie when he was red hot. And obvious first to third right there on a ball hit to right center field.
So Henderson, after getting the first 2 outs, gives up the infield hit to Cowgill, a bullet to Naquin. Now you've got Rajai Davis at the plate, a right-hand hitter. Jerry Blevins is up in the bullpen to get ready for Jason Kipnis, who's on deck, but Henderson has a huge out to get here to try and keep the Indians from adding to their lead. Davis 1 for 4 today, and he takes inside.
Oh.
I wonder whether that is a message pitch after
I don't think so.
d'Arnaud got drilled earlier.
I don't believe so. You see d'Arnaud set up away. The ball just got away. Remember, Henderson has an issue sometimes not coming through on his delivery and missing up and into right-handers and up and away to lefties.
It certainly undressed Mr. Davis.
Sure did.
There goes Naquin. It's a check swing roller. Henderson off the mound, and he makes the tag for the 3rd out.
So Henderson gets himself into and out of trouble after dusting off Rajai Davis.
And now we go to the 9th. Mets trying to come from behind. They were down 7-1. It's 7-5 as we go to the 9th in Cleveland.
Brought to you by Honda. It came in the first inning.
That was off the bat of Michael Conforto. A little bloop. Came in a nice play, but watch how he finishes this play if we continue on. We don't.
Nope. Stopped it just before you wanted it.
That's all right. I'll remind the truck next time.
Well, you'll tell.
I snuck that one on him.
You'll tell the folks who didn't see it at the time that he flipped the glove from the ball from his glove hand to his bare hand, perhaps intentionally, but had he not been successful in grabbing with his bare hand, it wouldn't have been an out.
Right.
But he did, so all was well. Kevin Plawecki up for the first time in the game after taking over for Travis d'Arnaud, who left with a left elbow contusion. Last we saw Plawecki, he was delivering the game-winning hit on Wednesday, and he fouls one back just underneath us. 1-1. Now here's the end of that.
Here's the end of the play. You've got to complete the play. And if he fumbled that, and you saw him,
he almost did.
Yes, that ball is it would be an E9 more than likely.
Alejandro De Aza on deck. 1-1 to Plawecki. And he takes the curveball from Allen for a strike. 1-2.
I like to keep the truck on its toes, you know, to sneak a few in there every now and again.
And you do.
Particularly the day games or late afternoon.
Another day game tomorrow.
Yeah.
Allen came on to get the final out in the 8th. Now he's 2-2 on Plawecki.
Well, here's the hammer. Oof. Yeah, he's got a good one.
Got a Kimbrel type curveball, doesn't it?
More over the top, more 12, almost not quite 12-6 on your dial.
2-2 coming. And he dots one outside. Now it's 3-2 to Plawecki. Well, stands to reason he can't afford to walk Plawecki or anybody in this spot. In a 2-run game, he's got to go after him. De Aza on deck. We saw his power last night. Granderson, who's homered already today, is behind him. That's looking for a base runner to give themselves a chance. And Plawecki is a base runner. How about that? Allen got ahead in the count and lost Plawecki to a walk, and now the Mets get the tying run to the plate. This was De Aza last night.
Opposite field home run, the deepest part of the ballpark, way out. And the 2-run lead, you cannot walk anybody. No free passes.
That was last night against Cody Anderson. Now facing Cody Allen, looking to go Cody squared. De Aza 0 for 3 today. Tying run at the plate in a 7-5 game. And he takes a strike. Curtis Granderson, who has 2 extra base hits already today, is waiting on deck. De Aza 2 for 5 in his career against Allen. And time granted very late.
Nice.
Aza takes the curveball for a strike, and it's 0-2.
See a lot of hitters today. Instead of getting on one knee in the on-deck circle, you can see Granderson mimicking and trying to get a sense of timing. See that more. David Wright does that all the time.
Well, Allen got ahead in the count on Plawecki, lost him to a walk. Now he's 0-2 on De Aza. And a pop-up. Going out Lindor to call everybody off. And that's the first out of the night. Pitchers.
A lot of pitchers don't realize when they've got a hitter 0-2, 1-2, and you've dropped a vicious hook on them, you've got them in a serious hole, and they're more vulnerable inside. He came right in with that fastball and tied up De Aza.
So now it's Granderson, who hit a leadoff home run back in the first inning, then an opposite field double to get the Mets' 4-run rally started in the 8th. He's only had 1 at bat against Allen in his career, 0 for 1. And he tries to lay off the curveball, but couldn't stop the swing. 0-1.
No, looking for a fastball first pitch. Try to tie the ball game up.
Cody Allen last year, in saving 34 games and making 70 appearances, only allowed 2 home runs all season. He's already allowed 1 home run this year. Infield overshifted against Granderson. And Curtis lays off that curveball. 1-1. David Wright waiting on deck. Plawecki at first and 1 out. And Granderson takes the fastball in tight. 2-1.
Getting a little dicey.
Well, the Mets last night had a 6-1 lead and had to hang on by their fingernails to win 6-5. Today was the Indians who were up 7-1 and trying to hang on. There's a strike. 2-2.
And there's that high strike. I think that was a strike, but home plate umpire Dan Iasonia has been a high ball umpire and been consistent with it today.
Now it's 2-2 to Granderson.
Fastball in.
And Curtis grounds one to the right side. Kipnis goes for the lead man, gets the out there. And that's the second out of the inning. So 4-6 on the fielder's choice, erasing Plawecki. And now the Mets are down to their final out of the day with David Wright coming up. David is 1 for 3 and a walk today. Looking for his first run batted into the season. Right now the Mets would settle for David just getting on base, getting those tying runs on for Conforto. Mets 5 runs, 8 hits. The Indians 7 runs, 11 hits. The drum beat begins. And the first pitch curveball from Allen, low and away. Not coming easily for Allen. His setup man Brian Shaw got beat up in the 8th inning when the Mets hit 2 home runs and scored 4. Allen issuing a leadoff walk here in the 9th, and now behind on Wright 2-0 with 2 out. Tying run at the plate. And David fouls off the fastball. 2-1. From Allen, and Wright grounds one to short. Lindor makes the play, and the Indians have tied up the series. The Mets, who hit 4 home runs last night, hit 3 more today, but not able to overcome the mid-inning barrage against Matt Harvey. And the Indians even up the series, winning 7-5.
Well, a tough day for Harvey. On the positive side from the offense, 4 home runs last night for the Mets. Coming in here, only scored 20 runs. They have opened up the offense a little bit. 5 runs this afternoon, excuse me. 3 home runs. Cespedes, Walker, Granderson.
Cody Allen registers a 4-out save. Matt Harvey, after retiring the first 13 batters, gives up 5 runs in 5 2/3 innings to fall to 0-3, 5.71 through his first 3 starts. And the Mets, after winning 2 straight, dropped the middle game of this series 7-5.
7-5 Cleveland wins it. We'll come back with more from Progressive Field in a moment.